Today's guest is someone who turned heartbreak into action. After the devastating Highland Park shooting on the 4th of July in 2022, Kitty Brandtner, a mom of three from Chicago, decided that she just couldn't sit back anymore. Within days, she mobilized hundreds and founded March 4th, a national movement pushing for an assault weapons ban. Kitty left a 14-year career in sales to focus on this work full time because she believes that no parent should have to fear sending their child to school. Today, we're talking mom to mom about courage, grief, hope, and what happens when one mom decides she's had enough. Kitty, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you, ladies. What an intro. Oh my
Oh
goodness.
man, we could have said so much more. The
Yeah.
list goes on and on and on. And I just want to dive right in because we feel really lucky to have you here with us today. I think you have done what all moms wish they could do, but we feel paralyzed every time one of these stories is in the headlines, which feels like it's way too much. I want to talk to you a little bit about the moment, like just take us back to the moment where you said, enough is enough. I have to do something.
I never was involved in advocacy or politics. I certainly donated to things, but I just didn't think I was smart enough to take on activism. And so I always say, when Sandy Hook happened, I was 25 and I
Mm.
just assumed as a selfish and naive 25-year-old that as horrific as that was, by the time it hit my sphere, surely the adults in the room would fix the problem. And I was very wrong. And then Uvalde happened in 2022. And I think we all remember where we were that day and the days following, given all of the coverage and the horrific response to that tragedy. But my oldest at the time, I had kids, and my oldest at the time was 5. So I knew I was sending her to elementary school that fall, given that this was the last day of school in 2022. So I realized, okay, so because I have to educate my child in America, I have to send her to a mass shooting target in elementary school. And so this becomes my problem. And it
Mm.
was such a horrible moment, I think, in American history. Of course, not even considering a horrible moment for all of these families and what they've had to go through, both the families that did lose someone and the families that had children survive and all the trauma associated. So I just started to I was angry. And my husband and I went to the French Open a day or two after Uvalde happened. And it's all I could talk about. And it's this melting pot, right? You leave your bubble of America and you know that this is an American problem. But we talked with parents and just people from every country you can think of, and whether they were from France or from Germany or from England or from Spain or New Zealand, like they all said the same thing. It was like they got together and had prep, and then they were like, hey, we're so sorry, we've heard, oh my gosh, also we don't understand what you guys do over there. Like, we don't have assault weapons, we don't have guns, like we don't have access to these things, like we don't get it, what are you doing? And so I think that pierced, a bubble, and also just makes you realize, like, yeah, this is a choice. Like, this is a
Mm.
choice, and the whole world is looking at us with their mouths wide open. And then about a month later, I live in the suburbs of Chicago, and on the 4th of July, there was a mass shooting at a neighboring parade. And so I was not at that parade. I was at the one 10 minutes away. We understood that there was an active shooter, and your first response is like, no, I'm sure, no, like, it's the 4th of July, it's probably fireworks. And then very quickly you realize, no, it's real. And it was just a horrific day. I always say it was the worst day, and I wasn't even there. There was a man that was at large who had an AR-15, who had
Ugh.
just killed 7, injured 58, and obviously traumatized thousands. There was a 2-year-old who was in the care of a friend who was sending a photo of him to, girls, moms in the area, just saying, do you know this child? Like, he's 2, he's in shock, like, and you're just like, oh no, they got separated. And then you realize his parents were murdered that day protecting him.
Those parents are actually, the father is my husband's friend from college. So
So sorry.
yeah. But anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but he
No,
was back at the funeral, just awful.
horrible.
Yeah.
And one of my volunteers worked with Irina. It's like all they did was bring their kid to a parade to celebrate our country. And my boy, I have twin boys, and they were 2 at the time. And so I'm just picturing like my kids and making sure that the people I know and love are safe-ish. And it was just horrible. So I think the 4th of July, my kids were like, why, my 5-year-old's like, why can't we go outside? And we had like, the window, like we're in lockdown. And in my head, I'm like, it's because I'm raising you here. Like, that's why. It's because we're not in any other country. And so after that horrific, probably 24 hours of just like bawling, devastation, depression, then I woke up on the 5th of July and was like really spicy and pissed and was like, all right, like the white woman in me is like, I need to speak to the manager. Who is letting this happen? Why is this happening? And not because I didn't think people weren't working on it. I knew they were and I was donating to them, but I'm like, okay, it's time for me to educate myself. So I started talking to Instagram, great
Yeah.
of
As
information.
as we do.
Yes, we do.
And just being like, hey, why can't the president just create an executive order that bans assault weapons? Like, I don't get it. And it's like, oh,
Yeah,
because we don't
same.
want to dictate it. I'm like, okay, well, so if Congress has to pass the law, like why aren't they? And so I'm getting all this feedback. I'm like, okay, am I missing something? Like, do we need assault weapons? Because it seems like the people that are choosing to purchase these are using them in the deadliest mass shootings. Like, is this just a hot take? No, that's pretty accurate. Okay, so I think I just want to go to DC and scream at the top of my lungs that I want a federal ban on assault weapons. I know I'm not the first to say enough. I know that this is hard. I know that people have been working on this for many, many years that are far smarter, and kudos to them. I also know that I cannot just go back to work tomorrow. So
Yeah.
if anyone wants to come, here's my email address. And I posted it on Instagram and I was public at the time. And then I took Xanax and I went to bed. And then I woke up and I had over 300 emails from people across the country. And so for the first time in like 48 hours, I'm crying like tears of like hope, like, oh my God. So I'll stop talking. But the bottom line was we formed by accident. I never meant to do this, but we were very narrow in our focus and in two ways. One, in a nonpartisan way. Don't endorse candidates. I'm not going to tell you how to vote. I'm not going to shame you for what you do on that side. I'm just going to ask you to come along with us. Do you believe that we should end mass shootings? Come along with us. That's been tricky, but we knew it was right because from the beginning, people that supported us didn't agree on politics, and yet they agreed on this. So I'm like, there's something.
Yeah.
And then the second piece that's very narrow is focusing on that assault weapons piece. And that is only to say the gun violence prevention world is huge because the gun violence world is it's an epidemic. Guns are
Yeah.
the number one killer of kids. There's so many layers to it. State laws, local laws, federal laws. We are focused solely on the federal level on assault weapons. I know I'm not going to solve all of gun violence, but if we can have less people murdered by bringing a law back that we already had and agreed upon, then we should.
You are doing the Lord's work. And when you started talking and naming all these shootings, like my blood started boiling again, the same way that it does every time we hear this in the news. And sometimes I feel like we're all becoming numb to these stories because they're so frequent and we cannot let that happen. And I know that you guys and March 4th you guys have met with lawmakers across the country on this issue. And I'm curious, like, what has been the most eye-opening process of that for you? And what do you wish more parents who, like me, are like, why is this happening? How does this continue to happen? Why am I getting to the point where I'm feeling numb? Understand about how real change does happen in DC.
Yeah. I think first, it's really important to call the numbness what it is. It's trauma. Like,
Um,
Fair.
we are experiencing trauma. Like,
yeah.
we should not be watching kids die at school over and over again and accepting it. And it's not to like post blame on anyone and say, like, how could you not be activated? It's like we have to live our lives, right? And we have to compartmentalize a little bit. And there's a lot going on in the world. But the bottom line is like we are so numb because we're traumatized and it is
Mm,
not normal. This is not
mm,
normal. But secondly, I think a couple things that have surprised me. Number one, I have like this unhinged optimism, also known as like being naive, which like, why can't we? I just don't get it. Like, so you're telling me that a law that is literally made up, we make laws up, we make them up on pieces of paper, which we also made.
yeah,
And we're saying we simply can't make this law. Like,
I know.
yeah,
Why?
and then what I'll say is like, so the answer of why we are where we are is so complex, and like there are so many layers, and it is politics and it's government and it's human attention span and it's timing and it's rhetoric and it's lobbying. Like there's so, the answer is we could have a whole discussion just on how we got where we got. But what I'm more interested in is how we can get where we're going. And I think, the piece that I think is really interesting is like when you start from a place of logic and just like, I think we can all agree that we want to drop our kids off at school and then pick them up alive. I don't get pushback from that ever. I don't get people saying, well, not if it means that blah, 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 blah. But when you start from a place of like, we need to talk about gun laws, people get really freaked out. They feel targeted, they feel attacked. Some feel like you're blaming them for what criminals do. And I think it's just important psychologically. My background is in sales, and like you got to start from a place of, yes, start from some sort of commonality. So we do go to DC. We go every month, except for in October, because October 2025, because the government is shut down. But we can only solve one problem at a time here, people.
That's right.
But I think when you start to realize that this really is a decision and a choice, it actually really fires you up, where you're like, okay, so we just need to be louder, more consistent. Like, not that this is easy, but it's like, it's possible. We can decide to do it. And I think when you look at this general movement, like if I had been working in this for 20 years and seen no progress, I would be completely jaded and disheartened. And like, not for lack of trying, they're doing such good work. But sometimes it's like, you need some energy to be like, guys, we can do this, And so that's what we're trying to do.
I think it's amazing. We've mentioned your job in sales. You left your job to focus on this full time. And for anyone who's followed your journey, you've met and been with the parents of these children. I applaud you because that is so heavy and so hard, but I'm sure it motivates you even more. I'm just curious, how do you set that down at the end of the day to just like be mom? Because I feel like it's like I have friends who are police officers and friends who are therapists, and I'm like, do you have a therapist just to offload the things you see on a day-to-day basis? So I'm
Yeah.
curious, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, I think in the beginning, when I had started this and we decided to go to DC within 10 days and
Wild.
create a march, and I'm like, I don't know how to do this. And then we were connected with Uvalde right out the gate. And so these families, many of them are still my friends. And I was fortunate, is maybe not the word, but honored to go down to Uvalde at the year memorial and further get to know them, and further get to experience their town. And it's like, this is every town. This is, and not the organization, but like, this is everyone. And I think when you start to like peel back the onion and get to know people, you realize like, this could be anyone. This could be me. This could be you. And like, this is bad luck and the fact that we have bad laws. But I think the point being, I think I went really hard in the beginning because within, not that we don't go hard now, but within the first 2 weeks of starting this organization, we had a vote in the House on the assault weapons ban, which hadn't happened in almost 30 years. And not only did we get a vote, but we got it passed through the House for the first time in almost 30 years. So we're like, okay, all we need to do is get the Senate to do it by the end of the year. And it's like, but I literally, A, we didn't because they decided not to vote on it at all. But B, I think I fully had like a mental breakdown. Like I would hear like laughter of children and like, just it's a lot to carry. And I also know that I am in a privileged situation that don't have a direct impact to this at this point in my life. And so it's a balance of like holding those stories and those people really close to you and also protecting your peace so that you can fight for them, because it's not up to them to do the advocacy. It already happened to them. And it really pisses me off that they have to do this. They don't, right? They make the choice, and it is, I think, in some ways cathartic, and they are wonderful messengers. But it's like, this is the last thing they should be doing. Big therapy person, so continue to do that. But I think I talked to my therapist about it early, where I'm like, I don't know if I want to send my daughter to, like, should I homeschool her? Like, I was so close to it. And she's like, the antidote to anxiety is action. So like, you have to realize that while you're not passing law today, Like you are doing something. So you're not just sitting twiddling your thumbs being like, oh no, what's going to happen? So that kind of helps.
Do you see an assault weapon ban law passing in our lifetime?
Yeah, girl. Okay, I think
Hell yeah.
Yeah, like how close are we? Like walk me through this because I think we all need some
yeah.
hope right now.
Well, I don't know if I can provide that, but I think what I can say is like again, if my co-president is our resident expert in politics and she worked on the Hill for 6 years and she worked as a lobbyist for 15 and like we will often like talk side by side and she'll be like, well, technically, XYZ. The bottom line is Congress can decide to do anything they want at any time. So like they got together, both sides of the aisle got together and they banned TikTok. They banned an app because, yes, there were reasons, but they freaking wanted to. Maybe
Right.
there were security reasons, safety, yada, 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 but they decided to. It wasn't that there was this uproar or all, it's like they have that ability. And so let's not forget that. And let's not forget that we do elect them, that we do put pressure on them. And so anything is possible. If we all decide, people are like, what is it going to take? I'm like, well, I need everyone's attention at the same time. So that's hard. And you need timing for the politicians to do what is necessary. And it needs to be this recipe. But we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, after Uvalde and Buffalo in 2022 in June, before I started this, and I didn't even know this at the time, the first piece of gun legislation was passed at a federal level in 3 decades. And as we got to talk with some of these folks, it's called the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act because it is bipartisan, because it has people on both sides. And we were in these offices and they're like, I mean, we knew there would be riots in the streets if we didn't do something. So you kind of realize like, okay, we have a lot of power here. And I always
Yeah.
think about that as I think about organizing, like, what are they afraid of? They're afraid of like very well organized, educated people. I don't know if it's going to be called the assault weapons ban. In fact, I don't think it will because I think that has a bad connotation. I think it sounds really aggressive and extreme. But
Mm.
I think that there's such opportunity for both sides of the aisle. And at the moment we are in a Republican trifecta, I think there's an opportunity for them to take this piece of this issue as the family first party, as the respect our military and military knows how to use these weapons. And perhaps they should be the ones that have access to it. Like it's all narratives.
It makes me mad. Why aren't they both just coming together and making it happen? Because you're right, this is bipartisan. This is an issue that we all feel so strongly about. And I I need some new members of Congress. I need you to run for Congress. Would you
Yeah,
run for
girl.
Congress?
No, horrible job.
Okay.
But like, and they like don't you can't be a parent and be in Congress. Like it's not how it works. There's a
Mm.
lot of problems with it. But again, I think like I've read a lot about like how change happens, because we just only can reflect on history, right? And it's like there's some people that just think it can, and then that spreads, and then it spreads more, and then you have that consistent pressure. But a piece of this and where we really focus on March 4th is like not using the political machine, that blaming and shaming and finger pointing and yelling and tweeting, like drop it, like sign off. That does not do anything, because when you get out of your bubble and you walk to your town square, your coffee shop, you have so much more in common with people than you think. I don't care
Yeah.
what flag or what political party sign they have in their driveway. If they didn't, you would be friends with them. So it's like you've got to, like, my ask to people that like it's just like have these conversations and don't start from a Republicans blah blah blah, Democrats blah
Right.
blah blah. Like no, how about, gosh, I can't believe we've seen, kids get released from the hospital after enunciation and we haven't seen change. What a shame. Like no one's going to be like, oh, I'm happy about that.
Right. Right.
Wild.
Oh, that's such a good point.
Yeah, I know. And I really do appreciate that you are coming at this from a nonpartisan standpoint because I do think we're so divided. And so any chance we can come together, like you said, this is not a political issue. This is like a humanity, protect our children. I mean, I've had goosebumps this whole chat. They like won't go away. They keep flaring up, but listening to you, you keep, again, getting me in my feels. You're so strong. But I'm curious what you feel like you've learned about yourself as a woman, a mom, a leader since you started this.
I think it's like the things that you want to teach your kids, you can just do it. You can just show them instead of telling them. And I came from a single working mom, and so I have a little bit of chip on my shoulder, about women can do anything and yada yada.
Mm.
That's my husband. But, you know, it's like something I talk a lot about just with other, like leaders, whether it's a large org or small, is just like the advice is just start. Just start. If I would have stopped on the 5th of July and been like, let me analyze the climate of gun violence prevention organizations and see if there's room for an additional, it's like I wouldn't have done this. I would have been like, oh, that's crowded. Not like, nope. So it's a lot of intuition and gut and just like doing what you think is right. And then the other piece is like not over analyzing it and being like, how hard can it be? Men do it.
So for all the moms listening, and even the dads too, like what is one simple step that we can all take today to help make a difference and to get involved?
Yeah, there's like you can click down however deep you want to go, but the bottom line is like we always say participation is required. We need you to do something that you didn't do yesterday. So if that is following us on Instagram so it's in your feed, fantastic. If that is reaching out to figuring out who your Congress people are, because I'm not shaming if you don't know. I didn't know when I started this thing that I have
Yeah.
2 senators and 1 representative, and I got a college degree somehow. Just making sure that you like do push yourself a little bit, educate yourself a little bit more, get involved a little bit more, show up to a meeting that you want, like, and it can be about any issue because God knows we have only a few to care about right now. But it's just like get a little bit more involved than you were yesterday, and you'll start to find your place in this fight or any other fight that you want to be a part of.
Mm.
If we call Congress and like, is there a way to get
Yeah.
in touch? Like, is that easy to do?
Yeah.
I'm
So
asked.
a plug for our Instagram. So if you follow us on March 4th, and it's March underscore 4th, like the 4th of July underscore, in our links, it's contact Congress. So you don't even have to call them anymore. Like this could not be easier. You literally type in where you live and it'll say the pictures of the people like, oh, you're contacting Dick Durbin and Tammy Duckworth of Senator, and then your representatives. And then you'll say, I want to tell them to end mass shootings. And then AI will write a form letter because if it's the same, then they'll flag it.
Yeah.
And you do it in under a minute and it's done. And
Okay.
that is the bare minimum easy thing that we all say we do it every day and then you fall out of the pattern. But it's like you want to do something and then we'll post reminders on our stories. So you're like, oh yeah, I'm in the car drop off line. Like this is so easy. Boop, 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 done. And it's just like people are like, does it matter? Yeah, because the silence matters too, because it's telling them that we don't care anymore. And we
Mm.
do.
Hearing you say that riled me up, and I'm like, I could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
And
can.
I think everyone can do that. And I think you making it so simple and yeah, having access to here's the link, here's what you do, here's who the people are. I think some people just, they think Congress is like so far out of touch, but they're not. They work for us, and we have to remember that.
Yes,
Oh,
100%. I
yeah.
always just think of myself as the barometer where I'm like, I'm not going to read an email that has 4 paragraphs. I'm not going to read about a bill.
Right.
But if you tell me to click something, I can
Right.
do that. I
Yeah.
can do that.
I can do it.
Like, I feel like we could talk to you forever. You're such a busy gal. So we'll wrap it up. But what is one message that you'd want every mom listening to carry with them after hearing your story?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's not about me. It's just about like what we can do together. And so it's just like participate. The message is like just do something because you can. And you may think that, like me, you didn't think you're smart enough. You didn't think you're educated in this. You didn't think you had time. You didn't think it would matter, but it does.
I have one last question, and Hallie knows this about me. I'm like tenacious AF.
Yeah, you guys remind me of each other actually quite a bit.
Like I'm feisty and I'm scrappy and I will fight for the little guy, and that's just how I feel about life. And so I know, a lot of moms out there, like they have so much fear. Like you said, you were thinking about homeschooling. I have this conversation with my husband all the time. I had it with a stranger today of like, should I homeschool? And I guess when you think about our kids' generation, and I promise this is it, what kind of change do you hope they inherit because of what you're doing and because of what we can all do right now to better this world in
No,
terms of
that's
safety?
awesome question. I think like my oldest is 8 now, and there's so many things like outside of the mass shooting problem, which is a huge freaking problem. Like we've got technology, we've still got bullying, we haven't eradicated that. Like there's so much stuff. And I just remember being a kid and it was hard enough. And so
Yeah.
I just wish, if we can eliminate the easy things, and to me, something easy is like logical. Like, I don't think we can put every kid in therapy and figure out why are you bullying someone, and how can we stop this and make sure every parent is equipped to handle said kid. Like, we don't have a barrier for entry of having kids. So, like, all of
Mhm.
that's out the window. But if we can mitigate the stuff that I know is solvable, that we know is solvable, then we should. And like, I just hope that what they have to worry about, like, it'll probably still be technology or maybe like their new robot friend. But like, God, if they could just go to school and not be afraid, that would be a win.
And
I'm
Kitty,
inspired now.
I know, right? I'm all fired up. My literally, I have goosebumps on my ass. Like this entire conversation, I've been
Yeah.
like, "Whoo!" I do want to also mention that you are loosely involved with this documentary that is now out on Netflix.
Yes. So this wonderful film, it is a very difficult watch. Okay. So I recognize that we did not have anything to do with making it because we're
Ooh.
not filmmakers and that would be silly. It's called All the Empty Rooms. This amazing production company, Smarty Pants, created this with Steve Hartman of CBS and their director, Josh Seftel. It is a 30-minute documentary following Steve Hartman, who is a CBS anchor. He basically wrote to every single family who has lost a child in a school shooting since Columbine, asking to come photograph their rooms. And his goal, it's exactly what you're feeling. His goal is to not have to say much. And so they don't use the word gun in this film. They don't use the word Congress. They don't use the word law. It's not necessarily about that. It is really trying to meet people from an empathetic perspective. So, coming back to what we were originally talking about with the numbness and the trauma, it's making sure we can step back and say, look where we are. What, almost like a what have we done, right? There are so many families that now have these kind of time capsules of bedrooms of their children who just went to school one day and didn't come home. And
Mm.
so it's like you can either see your children in this film, or even if you don't have kids, like you can see your room, your unfinished bracelet, your, picture of you and your friends at an ice rink or whatever. So very, very awesome that Netflix has picked it up for distribution. And our goal in it has just been helping to promote it because we believe it's a really powerful nonpartisan vehicle to bring people back to this issue in a new way and say like, wait, I think we can do something about this.
I can't wait to watch. Yeah, I'm like
I know.
emotional right now.
Watch it with a group. It's heavy, but like as a collective, it's a little easier.
Well, thank you so much for your time and for your advocacy and your bravery and your strength. There's just so many words I could use to describe.
So you roll your eyes when we call you strong, but girl, you are giving
You are.
strong all
These
over the
hype women.
place.
No,
Yeah.
Yeah.
thank you guys, and thank you for obviously sharing your platform and getting the word out because it means a lot.